All right, looks like we got 7 people on, so I'm going to hang up and we'll go from here. Bye. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to beautiful Joliet, Illinois. My name is Dan Molka with the Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau. Today we're going to go on an inside tour of the Joliet Area Historical Museum. So let's go ahead and walk in and meet our tour guide. It's a beautiful day outside, probably temperature in the 80s. So I'm definitely going to enjoy the nice cool air conditioning of the museum. I can hear some of the traffic in the background as well. And let me introduce you to our tour guide for today. It's the Executive Director of the Joliet Area Historical Museum, Greg Houbolt.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm here. We're doing a live tour here of the Joliet Area Historical Museum. As Dan told you, my name is Greg Houbolt. I'm the Executive Director. We will get to our museum store here and meet, some of our wonderful staff and volunteers that are here today. So let's first start out here in our visitor center, the Route 66 Visitor Center. Joliet kicks on 66. This area was designed when the museum was built in 2012. It was a new area, state-of-the-art visitor center. You can see in here many of our electronic and sensory components. Dan, actually, if you go behind you, one of our things here we use to try to meet and greet our Route 66 visitors is we have kind of old and new. We have the old school brochure rack, which still gets used very heavily with our Route 66 maps, and then kind of this newer kiosk that gives visitors information about attractions here in downtown Joliet. And you have a number of very cool aspects here in our visitor center. If you can follow me here. We'll start with the economy car here that you may have glimpsed in the window as you were walking in. These cars were constructed in Joliet in the early 1900s. This one is fully restored as part of the museum here in 2002. You might notice some characters sitting in there that look like they don't belong in the early 1900s, but they do belong to a long time ago and a galaxy far, far away. You'll hear a lot more about this, but we have Star Wars Day coming up this Saturday, and this is designed to kind of get the mood set for our annual Star Wars Day program with the library. Looks like we might have a question, Dan.
Yeah, we actually have our first question.
All right.
How many miles is Route 66?
Oh man, you're stumping me here. This will actually help us here. I believe it's something like 1,500 miles, and I could be wrong on that. I wasn't. 2,400. Okay, 2,400 miles. This is not to scale, but to give you an idea, Route 66 does traverse through a good portion of states. While it is normally associated with the far west, we certainly have a lot to offer here in terms of Chicago and kind of the first leg of Route 66. It's interesting to note that the area we're in right now, from approximately Joliet through Pontiac, is known as, and down all the way to almost Bloomington, Towanda, is known as the Red Carpet Corridor. We are kind of that ceremonial first stretch of Route 66 out of Chicago, where it goes from urban Chicago into pastoral, open road, big sky feel that's so associated with Route 66. So we'll walk through here. And this area welcomes our guests to kind of tell us about some of the upcoming events and programs we have here at the museum. Star Wars Day is going to be our biggest one. And we realized we were on something with Route 66 and how many international visitors we have here. When Paul McCartney, yes, that Paul McCartney came to the museum in 2008, and actually he sat right here in this chair. This is our Paul McCartney chair. The way I heard the story is he parked next door in a tow lot, so he was kind of waved down and told, "Don't park here." And as the person who told him that got closer, I believe her exact words were, "Oh, it's you." So Sir Paul did come and visit the museum and went upstairs into the galleries. Told he really enjoyed his time. He had wanted to take the Route 66 trip since he was a little boy. And he asked staff, I don't know what answer he got, but the question was, is it Route or Route 66? So that might be kind of a chicken or the egg question. But actually, I was talking to a couple gentlemen we have visiting here. Hi, how are we doing?
Stian.
What's your name?
Stian.
Stian. And where are you visiting from?
Norway.
And you are doing Route 66?
Yeah, we are doing Route 66. Yeah.
Are you going all the way to California?
All the way to California. That's
all the way to
correct.
California.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So why Route 66?
It's been a childhood dream ever since I learned how to drive car. And
Very cool.
Yeah. So, looking forward to it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Have a safe trip.
Thank you
and
very much.
welcome. Yeah. So that's kind of commonplace to see international visitors here every day on a Tuesday afternoon when it might be slow in other places. So we've had visitors from approximately 40 countries, all over Europe, all over East Asia, and it's just such a large and growing phenomenon. And again, you heard him say that childhood dream. So the feedback we get from a lot of our visitors is when we ask them why Route 66. Well, it's a look at the real America. It's a very authentic experience. And I think it has progressed with the rise of kind of the DIY and the craft movements is people want to be able to have an authentic experience. They can shape themselves, and certainly Route 66 offers that. So moving slowly along here. Of course, to many people, even internationally, is known as the home of Joliet, Jake, and Elwood, better known as the Blues Brothers. Of course, that famous movie was filmed here at the former Illinois State Penitentiary site in Joliet, and Joliet gives Jake his famous moniker. So we're able to kind of have some fun with that and play up the Blues Brothers. This is a very popular photo op for us here with Jake and Elwood, and we even sell the hats and the glasses in the museum store. So good sellers there as well. I think it's important to know that in addition to Route 66 coming through Joliet, really it's one of the most historic road alignments in America because you also have its lesser known, though earlier cousin, the Lincoln Highway, which runs right through downtown Joliet as well, Route 30 as it's now known in most places. But it may surprise many people to know that Lincoln Highway actually predates Route 66 by about 13 years. It is considered the first American international highway. And if you look here, this is an actual, these markers were lined up on the route, and they were designed to encourage, before you had a federal act that designated these highways and to maintain them, communities would have to build sections of roads by themselves. So projects and promotions like these were designed to get communities to continually pave the road to make sure it was consistent all the way across country. So with that, why don't we head upstairs into the galleries, and of course, if anyone has more questions while we're walking, I'll be happy to take them. And here comes Karen, one of our Tuesday volunteers. Say hello, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I volunteer on Tuesday, and I've been doing it since the museum opened. It's been a wonderful experience for me, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
As have we. Well, thanks for helping us out with this newfangled technology here.
You're very welcome.
Early adopters. So now we go into a newer, we leave the newer section and go into the older section of the museum. Looks like we might have a question, Dan, coming in here.
The question is from Kate asking, what days is the museum open?
Thank you, Kate, for that question. The question again is, what days are the museums open? This one I do know. We're actually open right now during Route 66 season 7 days a week, and we're open just under 330 days out of the year. So you can visit us currently Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sundays we are open noon to 5 p.m. So come on down. We're right in downtown Joliet on Casanado Street. We have a very large parking lot that's free. So No excuses to not come down and participate, and hopefully this will help entice you too. So as I was saying, we are entering the area that was formerly the Ottawa Street Methodist Church, and the structure was built in 1909, and 2001, 2002 it was repurposed into the Joliet Area Historical Museum. So we'll see some of our world-class exhibits that were constructed in 2002 and after, as well as the retaining stained glass and craftsmanship that was part of that church building. They just complement each other so well, and I think you'll be in for a very good feast for the eyes when we enter the main galleries. But before we do that, I'm going to start us here. This is one of our newer permanent exhibits, and Jolietans might recognize the name Houbolt as Houbolt Road. Joliet Junior College main campus is currently located there. John C. Houbolt was really the mind behind the moon landing. He's been called the unsung hero of the Apollo landing. He developed the theories that led to the successful landing on the moon. You had the LOR theory, which stands for Lunar Orbit Rendezvous, in which the Apollo module jettisoned the lander and later met up with it and retrieved it. That was his brainchild. Okay, all right. Still doing on time. 15 minutes already. Wow. Having so much fun with you guys. I have to get through this. So this is a two-part exhibit. We'll see the other part as we go upstairs. But this talks about Houbolt's life and kind of how he developed the theories, working with some of the greatest minds at NASA, and really was singled out as the person who got us on the moon. It happened right here in Joliet. He was a native of Joliet graduate, of Joliet Township High School, as well as Joliet Junior College. So we will keep going here. And you will notice some tracks on the floor here that lead to our temporary gallery. I mentioned Star Wars Day earlier, which is this Saturday. A new exhibit we did in conjunction with renewed interest in Star Wars and just the science fiction genre in general led us to our newest special exhibits, which talks about the rise of the science fiction genre. And you'll see here we have some early examples of some sci-fi artwork. And full disclosure, these are my Star Wars figures. I happily donated them to this exhibit. So shows you how much I'm invested. But really it was no coincidence, during the years when Houbolt was developing these theories that led to the moon landing, and we were seeing more of space for the first time in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, that the science fiction genre became much more prevalent, much more pronounced. And, these things, Star Wars, Star Trek, are now household names. And in a lot of ways, the sci-fi movies predicted many things that we, are household items today, things like cellular telephones and even theories about warp speed and such like. So life imitates art, or art imitates life, as they say. So we will keep going here. We're passing this sculpture here. As I will point out, Joliet was famous in the early 20th century, late 19th century for being a center of limestone. So you have a big slab of Joliet limestone here. The sculpture, the City of Steel and Stone, represents people past, present, all the way into current day that have helped shape Joliet's history. And we'll take a quick peek in the movie theater here. I think there's a film going. We have some visitors watching, but so normally you would start your experience here. So we'll sneak around here. Our guests are watching the film, and we'll go into the main gallery here. Probably the biggest part of Joliet's formation occurred with the construction of the Im Canal in the 1840s, and that brought a number of immigrants here, as well as it literally and physically built up Joliet. So this is our scale model of the Im Canal, an imagined version of the construction of it, and it has some quotes here about the importance of the canal, how the canal came to be created. Really, when you talk about Route 66 Lincoln Highway, it started with the canal. This was international transportation, almost a century before any of these other things were thought of. So we will, walk through our virtual canal here. And a little later, after the canal developed, you had this reputation, as I mentioned earlier, about Joliet being the city of stone and steel. As the United States was expanding into the West very quickly during the late 19th centuries, early 20th century, they needed supplies, they needed things, they needed building materials, and places like Chicago, and especially Joliet, was just a huge crossroads center for railroads and a leading producer of things like the limestone and steel, as well as those associated products. You had a barbed wire that was produced in Joliet, you had nails, you had horseshoes, all these things that were needed to build up the West were created right here. So we'll wind around this exhibit here, and we'll give you a look at that. And actually, Joliet's barbed wire history recently made some news with the sale. Hiram Scott was a producer of barbed wire here in Joliet, and his home, which still exists on Broadway Street here in Joliet, recently came up for sale, and it went all over the country about this quote-unquote haunted house. It kind of has that classic haunted house appearance. So barbed wire, in a way, with a beautiful old home that was for sale, was still a Joliet product. So. And Joliet Limestone, it's likely, especially, if you are an Illinois resident or have traveled to Chicago, if you don't know what Joliet Limestone is, you have seen it. Probably the most famous structure built of Joliet Limestone is the Chicago Water Tower, which is obviously a very iconic building, not only of Chicago, but Illinois and the Midwest. And the building material came right here from Joliet. The quarries also built up a number of structures locally. Probably one of the more famous ones, we mentioned the Blues Brothers downstairs, was the Illinois State Penitentiary at Joliet. You can see some artifacts on display here. Actually, they shared the same architect, the Chicago Water Tower and the Joliet Prison, W.W. Boynton. And I will say the museum is working on a task force. That's probably the number one question I get is, well, what's happening out there? We're working on a task force with some of our local leaders, and we think we're making some headway working with the state. Officials have been very helpful, and the new administration seems very eager to help us get something done out there and get it back working for the public, hopefully in a tourism capacity. So stay tuned for that. And again, we'll kind of wind around. You can see some of our Victorian home accoutrements here, and what life would have been like in that steel and stone era. And we have a popular feature. We'll skip it just to time constraints, but a really cool thing called Talk of the Town, where you can quote-unquote talk to some of the characters from Joliet's past. And as we're walking here, you'll see just some artifacts going back to the idea of made in Joliet. Moore Stove Company is a very famous one. And going back to our notion of Joliet being a transportation hub, we have a virtual trolley ride that you can take here at the museum that's very popular. We'll hop in here and give you a little listen to that. So that's kind of a cool, maybe Dan can pan back here to the seats, but Joliet did have a number of train and trolley lines, so, well, we have our beer tastings, we have to kind of shoo people out of here from time to time, so, okay, now we're going to take a virtual walk down Chicago Street, down the streets of yesteryear in Joliet. This is kind of the era, moving into the 19-teens and 20s, and this is really when Joliet became a city, really when it developed cultural institutions, built itself up from sort of an industrial and agricultural outpost into a bona fide city. And of course, one of the things that is still very much associated with city life in Joliet is the Rialto Square Theater, the beautiful theater here in downtown Joliet. So we have some virtual movies that we show, some silent movies complete with organ accompaniment here as we're walking. Another important part of life in Joliet, and the legacy of Joliet that brings Joliet to the rest of the world is the Joliet Township High School Marching Band program. They were, going back to early adopters with live videos. Joliet was an early adopter of school marching band programs in the early 19-teens. By the 1920s, even John Philip Sousa referred to them as the best marching band in all the land. And really, you can trace back the reasons why you see marching bands in every school to Joliet. So we have kind of a memorial to that program. This is our newest exhibit in the permanent gallery, very well received by the community, obviously, and even our regional and international visitors, didn't realize a lot of that started here right in Joliet. All right, we're going to take the stairs now. Hopefully I won't get out of breath. And here's another great image of Chicago Street where you see the trolley lines, and this is probably at Jefferson looking north. And wow, what would a nice Tuesday afternoon look like back then. So here we talk a little bit about the former Joliet Arsenal site and Joliet's contribution to World War II. I know I can tell you personally, my grandmother, who's still alive and well at age 94, worked at the Joliet Arsenal, and they produced weapons and ammunition, chiefly ammunition for the war efforts. Currently that site, many of you now know, is undergoing a full transformation to the nation's first and only national tall grass prairie midday wind. So really the notion of going from war to peace is very well pronounced out there. You'll notice some religious artifacts here. And this is an artifact from Santa Fortunata, which was a celebration of the Italian-American community in the early 1900s, and these religious artifacts were used throughout. And you follow me up the stairs. I mentioned, a lot of the architectural features of the church, which we still retain. Beautiful turn-of-the-century woodwork, and you're really going to get a good look at the stained glass once we clear the stairway here. And we're walking through an exhibit about 1955 when Joliet was given a designation of an All-American City. So as we walk through here, you also can get a look at the galleries, the stained glass, and it's a really dramatic view. It shows you really how great of a job they did uniting new and old in the Joliet Area Historical Museum. Okay, so we'll take a quick walk through here. Again, this talks about Joliet in the 1950s, that era, and really when you had subdivisions and neighborhoods appear, Joliet again, it is a city. It's a bona fide city. If you come to Joliet and call it a suburb, you might get into a little trouble here. So, but really, classic suburban patterns have developed around Joliet and downtown Joliet, and I won't give you that because that's like more my senior thesis, but I did want to show you this. We are gearing up. You can see a little corner of it up there, but we recently restored the Civil War flag of the 100th Illinois Infantry, which is primarily Will County Regiment. We have an exhibit coming in that's going to tie that in with our existing veterans exhibit, which is down here. So we're hoping that will be completed here in the next 2-3 weeks. So stay tuned. You can find news on that, other museum happenings at jolietmuseum.org. I don't know if I've said that enough. jolietmuseum.org. And you can see some of these beautiful windows here as we, the craftsmanship up close is really in and of itself a unique experience. So if you visit here and hate the exhibits, if nothing else, you'll probably love getting a look at this beautiful stained glass. So you will not hate the exhibits. So this is our War Heroes Gallery, and this will tie in with the new flag exhibit coming, just honoring the contributions. With it being the day after Memorial Day, it's a perfectly appropriate time to discuss that of veterans and, going all the way back to the Civil War and up to current day. So this is a very, very cool place, and we're really happy to have the opportunity to expand it. Okay, so follow me across the threshold here. Our War Heroes Gallery Wall of Honor, also a feature of that exhibit. And now we come to, this is a little more current day Joliet stuff, and you'll notice here we have our Star Wars Day. These dolls are normally not here all the time, but just a nice feature for Star Wars Day. We had about 5,600, a little over 5,600 people in one day, to give you an idea of how big of a deal that is. And those were just the ones that came into the museum. So they were estimating, I think, 8,000 and 10,000 people downtown for last year. And with the new movies, we're hope we get it even bigger this year. So this is part 2 of the Houbolt exhibit. We saw that downstairs, and we'll do a quick walk through here. You can see we have a lot of very cool features. I won't press all the buttons, but if you're ever able to visit us, we have just so much interactive material associated with this exhibit. So, and then you can look down and see the quote-unquote Earth. Hello. Hi. Okay, so we'll kind of wrap up here. We have some plans to turn this area into the Joliet Sports Hall of Fame and a Joliet Area Sports Hall of Fame exhibit that we're working on too. So we're excited to kind of tell that story as well. You'll see part 2 of the sculpture piece here, and it opens to this beautiful skylight. And we have some material related to Joliet Township High School, as well as West and formerly Joliet East, on display here. And another part of the Houbolt experience that we're very happy with is the Lunar lander simulator. You can get exactly, this was created down to the inch of how the lunar module was panned out and about what size it was. Give you an idea of fitting 3 people in here, how brave you would have to be to do that. So you can come challenge yourself here when you're available to try to land the Eagle. So we will wrap up here on one of our favorite spaces and where a lot of our programs and community events occur. This is our roof deck, and it's a beautiful day here in downtown Joliet, looking out across Ottawa Street here to the YMCA building, the Catholic Charities building. You get a great view of the canal and the river, and this is just a beloved community space. We have a concert series up here. We have museum fundraisers. We rent this space out to the public, and really there's nothing like it in Joliet, and it's just another perk of being in the museum. I know my colleagues, they love the exhibits, but they really love the event spaces we have here. So that's another function of our museum, is that we act as kind of a community hub and a place where the public can not only experience the museum, but places like this. And again, I can't think of a better place or time to end our tour here. So I hope you enjoyed that. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. So thank you very much, and we hope to physically see you down here very soon.
And once again, thank you for tuning in. You can follow us at heritagecorridorcvb.com. Thanks to our folks over at enjoyillinois.com as well. We're signing off. Thank you again, and stay tuned for more tours of the beautiful, amazing Illinois.